Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Back again, Ask the Dietitian with Professor Lindsay Howard. What's up, Lindsay?
Not much. Ready for some warm weather this week, that's for sure.
It seems like it's coming, right?
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be 60s this week.
60s. That's what they say, but I don't know. It was 33 as I drove here this morning.
Yeah, I was going to say it was 12 when I went to train my client this morning.
Okay. What time was that?
The first one was 5:30.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah, that's look at you. What time are you getting up?
Like 4:45.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
No, it's not. It's horrible. It's not bad. It's not that bad. It's freaking terrible. That's what it is. And what time do you normally go to bed?
Last night I went to bed at like 10, but no, I try to get in bed a little earlier, especially if I have those early clients. But,
yeah. How many days a week?
Usually at least 3, sometimes 4.
Wow.
So,
All right.
it's difficult because, I mean, as we know, you're supposed to stay on a very consistent sleep schedule, go to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time.
Yeah.
And I need to work on it.
Yeah, we all do. And it's not so much waking up early. That's great, right? You kind of waking up with the sun almost, here now we got daylight savings kicking in this week.
Right.
So you'll be waking up with the sun, which is great, but it's getting to bed a little earlier to make sure you get that shut eye.
That's right.
And that's where the struggle is real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you think you can wake up and fix it with coffee, but not a good idea.
Coffee does fix many things, though. Many problems in life. Coffee fixes here, right?
The elixir of life.
It is. All right. Well, there's a few topics that I want to talk about. I want to talk about fasted and fed cardio. I want to talk about bulking strategies, and then certain fat loss, maybe secrets. So fat loss, fasted or fed cardio, which kind of tie in, and then also bulking secrets. But I wanted to jump into some questions now, and then we'll kind of jump back to some of the other topics. John Trigg in the house. What's up, John? Good to see you. John is in the system. John has had amazing health and fitness progress. I don't want to put all of his success out there unless you care to share, John, but also has been helpful here behind the scenes with some of the tech questions we've had.
Nice.
So appreciate you, John. John wants to know, when weighing meat, should it be done raw or cooked? Same thing with foods like rice or quinoa. I'll let you jump in, and I'll share my thoughts.
Well, I would ask a follow-up question. Why are you weighing your food? If you were doing something extremely particular, like preparing for competition or something like that. But for the most part, most people, it's actually almost disordered eating if you're weighing every single thing that you're eating. I'm not saying you have to stop or anything like that, but I know a decent amount of people that weigh their food. That's so tedious. Yeah. Putting your meat on a scale, cleaning it off, putting something in a container, subtracting the weight of the container, all this stuff. That's too much. And it makes eating and cooking and food prep not fun. But no, I guess if you were doing this for a particular reason, I would say after it's cooked. Different meat has, it's called cooking loss. So it could actually lose mass and weight. All sorts of blood and fat and stuff like that cooks off while you're cooking, especially like a steak, something like that. So it's definitely going to weigh less after you cook it. But
yeah. And what my take is, and I agree with the obsession on weighing every single food, every single calorie, fitting every single macro. This is a form of disordered eating. In transition, as we're getting away from maybe the traditional American diet and finding a more healthy lifestyle plan, weighing food might create greater consciousness of how much am I actually eating, so we can better proportion our plates. So if you're going through our online platform, let's say, or really any meal, let's say you get a meal plan, whether it's from Lindsay or just from another team where it's just peripheral knowledge, it'll say food size or food weight typically. So food volume is by cup or food weight is by gram or by ounce. In that, and I agree with Lindsay, we weigh our meal or we weigh our meats primarily before or after cooking. Before they touch the plate, after cooking, then it's very uniform. because if I weigh my meal, like my meat, before I cook it, who knows what that fluid loss may or may not be kind of going through the process. And certain different types of foods have that loss, which is a little higher. So I think it's easier to just weigh it before it hits your plate. And then same thing with like on our program, for sure, it's cooked carbs like rice or quinoa, simply because half a cup of uncooked rice, dude, that's going to be like 3 cups fully cooked, probably something like that. But also from an ease and making life a little easier, you got your rice cooker, you take in the half cup scoop, you dump it on your plate, and you're done. So that should be a lot easier. And think of it all as it hits the plate. That's the full measurement. That'll make life a lot easier. But to Lindsay's point, don't overly obsess about it. And once you know what's, about 4 to 6 ounces of steak or chicken or fish, then it becomes very simple eyeball. And this is why a lot of our literature, we talk about handfuls. A handful of spinach, like a handful of rice, a handful of fruit. Then it becomes very easy. I mean, this little mouse right here, that's about a handful of a carbohydrate. Well, that works out to be about a half a cup anyway. And then it's an even unit of measure. And also, handful is relative to body size, typically. You get a 5'2" person or a 6'2" person. Typically, there's an aggregate disparity in body mass. And that helps make up for it without getting overly obsessive.
All right. Me at 6'2", I've got big hands. So
there you go. But so let's say you, and what position did you play? Center, power forward?
Yeah, like power forward.
Power forward. Now the point guards are probably coming in below 5'6", right? So, and there would be a body mass disparity that is correlated to inches. I mean, as long as you're relatively healthy, relatively lean, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like, close enough. Yeah. 6'2". Wow. I know you said that last time, but 6'2", it sounds bigger when you say it. Nice.
Wait till I stand next to you.
I will have my heels on, girl. I'll have you in flip-flops. I'll be wearing my 1970s Superfly boots.
Yes, platforms.
And that's the way I roll around town anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, what else we got? Henrik, what's up, Henrik? New Dolce Diet certified coach. Good to see you, brother, over there in beautiful Sweden. Get in where you fit in. Our circles don't fit with squares. My favorite new segment of the show. Appreciate that. Certainly my favorite segment is Ask the Dietitian with Lindsay. I'm fortunate that I get to spend more time in conversation with Lindsay than you guys get to appreciate here. So it's definitely a benefit to the community.
Awesome. Yeah, right. Thanks. Yeah, he was awesome to have on the conference the other weekend.
Yeah, super cool, right? It's such a great group, and Henrik, of course, has been killing it for months now. Just high level athlete in his own right, very successful businessman, just like someone who I think we all aspire to be a little bit more like Henrik. And I'm excited to see him get out there and start changing people's lives. That's going to be a fun one. Dave. Hey, Uncle Mike and Lindsay, do I need to eat after a workout for muscle protein synthesis to occur? Professor?
Well, I think we might have talked about this last week, but
every week we're going to talk about this. It's going to come up every week forever.
It's a big question, and it's a big, hot topic. Like, do we have a synthesis window? Do we have a very specific window that we have?
The anabolic window?
Yes. Does it exist? Probably not. There's tons of research out there, but
not the way the supplement companies, scare us to believe that it actually does. If you don't take 3 or pre-workout, intra-workout, post-workout, follow-up supplement, then you're just not going to make gains for sure. So you better buy ours now. Blah blah blah. Sorry, go ahead.
But no, so we pull muscle protein synthesis occurs with all of the amino acids. So all the amino acids in our body are in a pool, and we need to keep that pool full, so to speak, throughout the day. So as long as you're getting enough protein in for your individual body and your goals throughout the day, evenly spaced, then you're fine. It's not going to do anything negative if you wait an hour after you lift to eat a meal. Sometimes I like to have a whey protein shake after a meal just because I'm not really hungry. Yeah. After you work out, sometimes you're like completely famished, but a lot of times you just worked out so hard that you're like, I can't even think about eating yet. So it's not a bad idea to get protein in after a workout, but do you need to have it 30 minutes right after? No. And then the other thing is people say like, stick to 25 or 30 grams per meal because otherwise it'll spill over and you'll store it as fat. Well, you're not just using the protein for muscle protein synthesis. You're using it for so many other things in your body. So yes, although your muscles might not be, able to use that much at one time, protein serves so many other functions in the body. So I guess my ending answer would be, yes, you need protein after a workout, but no, you don't have to freak out and be like, if I didn't have it in 45 minutes, my workout was a waste.
Yes. And speaking of protein, this episode is brought to you by Certified Piedmontese. Go to Piedmontese.com and feed your family the same way I feed mine. Right now, use promo code DOLCE to save 25% on grass-fed, grass-finished beef with free delivery. That's Piedmontese.com. Ooh, Piedmontese.com. Truly the only beef I feed my family, the only beef in my home, certified Piedmontese. Do go to Piedmontese.com. Check it out. I live in the grass-fed, grass-finished department of the Piedmontese.com website. And that 25% discount, Dolce promo code, we receive $0 for that. It was very important for us to be transparent on that. The entire savings is passed on to our community. And you receive free delivery on orders over $99. So it's like, stock your freezer for the month or more with that certified Piedmontese. Get the 25% Dolce discount. Save on free delivery. It literally becomes less expensive to get a much higher quality of meat delivered to your door than to get in your car, drive to the supermarket, and go through that mess to get inferior quality of meat. So super happy to be representing Piedmontese and all that they do. This is an American-based company, not to go too long on it. It's an American-based company right in Nebraska. They did not surge price their beef during the pandemic. They were one of the few companies to not increase prices on beef. They actually reduced prices. They came up with packages and bundles, like a 5-pound pack of grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef, and they dropped price an extra 20 to 50%, I believe, with our promo code on top of that to make sure families had food in their freezer to feed their families. And their team was working overtime, like nights and weekends, and they didn't increase price. And that's one of the reasons I stand behind them like I do, and I speak to them for you guys right now. So I just did want to say that. I don't really say that as often enough. Now, to answer Dave's question, do I eat after a workout for muscle protein synthesis? The answer is, if your post-workout meal is wholly responsible for muscle protein synthesis, you're fucked. That's the answer.
Plain and simple.
I'm sorry?
Plain and simple.
Plain and simple. You're fucked. The muscle protein synthesis, as Lindsay had said, is a response, or adequate or ample or efficient or optimal muscle protein synthesis is a result of a consistent amino acid pool that is available through the constant ingestion of high quality protein foods. Muscle protein synthesis does not happen in a vacuum. It does not happen in a 30-minute window. Sure, we can drip in a little more amino acids during that period of time post-workout. I enjoy sipping on, let's say, 20 to 40 grams, depending on training size, total caloric intake, intensity levels, body mass alterations. Me personally, though, 20 to 40 grams, say an average of 30, intra-workout as I'm hitting my cool down. Let's say I'm finishing with core or calves or forearms or something. I'll start to sip on that a little bit because, as Lindsay had said, I start feeling a little famished. I'm very blood sugar sensitive, and I can kind of feel after a hard-ass workout, my blood sugar starts to dip a little bit. And just that little bit of protein kind of pulls me out, makes me feel a little bit better to finish. And also I have the bro concept of, well, I got my aminos in also. So then I can go home, take a shower, and then have a real meal. But that meal is typically 30 to 90 minutes on average after the workout. Not so much because I'm scared of the anabolic window closing, simply because I'm ready to eat again. Because I haven't had a real meal for maybe 90 minutes before my workout. I had the hour and a half workout, and now it's that time is ticking. Like I want to eat every 2 to 4 hours, regardless of what I'm doing. So if you're not hungry, don't worry about it. But, I'd say probably within that 2 hour after workout, because you likely haven't eaten for 2 hours or more going into the workout and the training time.
Right. And another thing to add on top of this is, are you actually stimulating muscle protein synthesis from your workout?
Called you out. Sup?
Not just you, Dave, but anyone. Like, you're not just going to go in the gym, throw around 15-pound dumbbells and expect that you're going to grow muscle tissue.
Great point.
You have to cause muscular damage in order for them to rebuild. So that should be your first concern, is, are you completing a high quality workout?
Yep. And with that, Lindsay, and I know there's still a lot of conversation, volume versus intensity. We can go back to like the Arthur Jones Nautilus, 1 set to failure, Mike Menser, Dorian Yates. I forget who the dude over is in the UK right now, who's also kind of on that tip. Great. Or more of the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Reg Park, who the other modern most all other modern bodybuilders now, let's say, and bodybuilders probably aren't the best example of this because of the amount of drugs that they take, to be fair. They're going to grow regardless. Do you have any thoughts on maximal stimulation of muscle protein synthesis? And this is not I'm setting you up actually unintentionally, because there's no, in my opinion, there's no real answer per se. So what are your thoughts on super high intensity, minimal sets, super high intensity, or I think Lyle McDonald and Dr. Mike Israetel have been having quite a battle back and forth about this concept. Mm-hmm. And Lyle is saying that, well, Israetel talks about, having like an RPE of 10 or so, or 0 reps in the, left over. And then Lyle saying, well, you don't actually train intensely enough for that to be true. Mm-hmm. Like, you're just quitting when it gets uncomfortable. You're not truly pushing yourself to that extra rep or 2 that you still do. Rep in reserve, I believe, is the criteria. Mm-hmm. So let's just kind of talk on that for a minute, so everyone watching can get an understanding of intensity, because that's a great point. Are you actually stimulating muscle protein synthesis, or are you just doing a little pump and fluff? Right. Which is, hey, that's fine. I'll do a little bit of that. But that's more of like an active recovery, that pump and fluff type of workout, to like just move some things around. I can do like the little engine, little selfie, but I'm not stimulating anything except my own ego growth.
Yes. But no, so there's so much debate back and forth, even in hard research, not just people's opinions. There's so much research on both ends. So to answer your question, I don't think there's a true right way to do it, but there are things that we know work. So training eccentrics, time under tension, things of that nature. But just getting out of your comfort zone is the biggest thing. If you want to grow muscle, you have to cause muscle damage, pretty much, which sounds like ass backwards, but that's what works. You have to break it down to build it back up, so that next time you do it again, your body was like, oh my God, that sucked. So your muscle adapts, builds more muscle protein, pretty much. So it builds it back up, so that next time you do the same thing, it feels a little bit easier. And that's how we adapt, pretty much in all ways, physiologically. But to speak on the RPE thing, this is one that gets me, because RPE is so subjective. Yeah. It's like somebody's RPE of 7 could be somebody else's RPE of 2. Yeah. So, some people don't have that, I guess, the mental toughness or the edge to follow a program like that to its truest form. Yeah. Like if the program calls for, I don't know, 6 reps intensity level is RPE of 7, which is rating of perceived exertion, by the way. So how hard do you feel you're working? Somebody could have 5 reps left in the tank.
Yeah.
So it's a little tricky when you get into that, but I would say most trained lifters know what their true RPE is and are able to push themselves. But there's a lot of different periodization models and things like that that people go back and forth on.
Yeah, and I think level of experience matters. So as we program novice, which has 0 experience training, and then beginner has moderate level of training, but still brand new to everything. And then we have, 3 different variants of an intermediate, and then we go into an advanced, and then we'll move into an elite. So as you go through that tier, but to your point, you don't really understand exertion until you hit the advanced stage, simply because it's such a foreign concept, and discomfort at the beginner, novice, beginner, intermediate level appears to be full shutdown. That appears to be discomfort feels like failure until you've experienced it enough times and fought through it and had training partners screaming at you, or just the fear of blowing out your back. You actually stand up one more time, right? You realize, like, wow, I actually had one more. So I think Israel calls it, and I'm just peripherally attributing it to him. Maybe it came from somewhere else. The RIR, which is rep in reserve. So RPE, rate of perceived exhaustion or exertion, I've seen it both ways, regardless, is like, people are like, oh man, that was a 10 for me. It's like, boo, you racked the weight yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So then if you look at the RIR, rep in reserve, how many more reps could you have done with that same weight? And then I think that's just mentally more than anything. And I don't really use this stuff very often because I'm a little more advanced also, like you. But the rep, a rate of rep in reserve, I'm like, man, none. No, but that also does not equate to total muscular failure, in that you can then continue your set through eccentric, as you said. You can have a spotter come in. You can actually strip set. There's multiple ways to dramatically increase the intensity of the set, the time under tension, the accumulation of the training effect to that specific load. But this is really where it becomes that advanced athlete, the elite athlete. I mean, we might do eccentrics with novice, beginner, intermediate, but that's more of just grooving the weight, let's say, getting comfortable, because that is a part of the strength curve, the eccentric form also. But we're not doing that so much as to tear the fibers apart. We're just creating comfort within that groove, within range. So for everyone listening, it really does matter to your current level, current ability. Are you, and I think, Lindsay, it goes back to just simple progressive overload. Are you doing more this time than last time, more this time than you've ever done before? In that case, then yes, you are most likely activating muscle protein synthesis.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And we talk about, like, if you got Andy Galpin back on here, he'd go on for days about muscle fibers. But that's another thing. You're taking your type 2 muscle fibers and pretty much making them better at what they do, which is they are used in lifting. So it's just adaptations over time. And I think there's a bunch of different programs, but in like anything, the best program is a program that you can actually stick to and continue on to progress. So, and that's the other thing. It's pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone every time you go into the gym. And this isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants to get huge. Some people just want to stay fit. Some people want to get a little bit stronger, but don't really care how they look. So it all depends. But
and I want to kind of touch on this, and I'm actually let me throw this up. So this gentleman, Vigorous Steve, who I've been watching more of his content recently, he's actually very, very intelligent man. Should have considerably more followers than he does. So he's done a lot of joint podcasts with Leo of Leo and Longevity, one of my favorite channels, and also Derek over at More Plates, More Dates. I was doing my own morning cardio. I was doing my own fasted list. We're going to talk about this next, by the way. But with Vigorous Steve, he was actually doing a video comparing keto versus carb cycling. And he actually said something I found interesting, that if he's following a ketogenic diet, he actually subscribes to a much lower rep load than if he's following a carb cycling program, which was interesting. It's actually the first time I've heard someone of intelligence explain this. And essentially, he's looking more towards, let's say, 4 rep sets per se on a ketogenic program due to the lack of glycogen reserves. Right. But when training, and then I'll remove it. So Steve, a good job on this one, conversation for us and for the whole group to enjoy. But then when he's following a carb cycling program, he trains more in the 8 to 12 range. So let's say 4 to 8. 8 would be the very high end, closer to 4 on a very low 0 carbohydrate ketogenic program. And Lindsay, in a second, if you could explain what this means from a glycogen capacity. And then when he's doing a carb cycling, now he's consuming, sometimes a massive amount of carbohydrates on his high refeed days. He'll, probably go from 4,000 or so calories to almost 6,000 calories. So maybe 2,000 carb calories, which is, considerable. He'll train much higher rep range, 8 to 12, which this is more of a glycolytic activity per se. So now, Lindsay, if you could jump back in and maybe speak a little bit about the substrate utilization of that lower rep range ketogenic, output as compared to the higher glycolytic output, just so everyone can understand here. It's very interesting if you understand what's happening, and then you can start to truly personalize your training to your nutrition. And this is why we say we eat based upon activity. We don't follow this template routine. We eat healthful, whole foods, micronutrient dense foods. That's awesome. Based upon activity, and the activity will matter, right? The type of food we eat, the time of foods we eat, the quantity of foods we eat matters based upon activity. So Lindsay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So, pretty much the way our bodies work, we're glycolytic beings. That's how we generate ATP, which is the energy source for all of muscular contraction. So when you begin, say you're doing like a set of 5, okay, it takes you, depending on what type of exercise you're doing, say you're just benching, okay, to do a 5 rep bench press, that would take you, a minute tops, 45 seconds, 30 seconds, depending on how fast you're repping it out. But that is a predominantly anaerobic activity in which we are using carbohydrates to fuel that exercise. So carbohydrates are the only macronutrient that we could metabolize for energy anaerobically. And now when we don't have any carbohydrate, if we're in a keto type state, or if we're in a ketogenic, if somebody was actually in ketosis,
which is very rare, by the way, for most of the average users out there. And that's one area I spoke very loudly on for years now. So continue. I'll touch on that later.
So I actually don't know the research on this, but it would be interesting to see. So if you don't have that glycogen available to go through what's called glycolysis, you're just breaking glucose down into a smaller molecule to make ATP. If you don't have it, you go through a process called gluconeogenesis, where you take fat in your liver, convert it to glucose, ship it to your muscle, and then go through glycolysis. So just talking about it, that's a slower, longer process. So theoretically, I would guess that if somebody was in ketosis truly, they would be slightly less powerful because, again, glycolysis, anaerobic energy metabolism fuels these short duration, quick burst, high speed type activities. So it would be very interesting to see, the overall consensus on if somebody was truly in ketosis, if they were not able to generate as much, force output, power output, things like that, because that process takes a much longer time. That's why we as humans burn fat at rest, because it takes longer. It's more than double the amount of calories per gram of a gram of fat versus protein and carbohydrate. And it goes through a process called beta oxidation, which takes way longer than it does to metabolize glucose. So it is interesting, back to what you were saying about him, that, if you have enough glycogen, then you have more energy. Your energy stores are much longer, so that you could go higher reps, longer duration, more volume, because you have that energy available. Whereas if you were in ketosis, you probably would burn out pretty quickly.
So if you're in ketosis, you simply will not have adequate amounts of fuel for that type of higher repetition activity. So training, let's say, only 4 repetitions will likely be most productive as compared to a 12 repetition set. While in ketosis, or simply following a zero carb, super low carb, ketogenic style diet. And that was interesting, in that getting the most out of his training, which would likely be fewer sets, higher weights. He would probably, and to your point, which is very interesting, that likely he would be able to have a better workout training, let's say 4 rep sets than 12 rep sets in ketosis, but also likely he still would not achieve PRs while in ketosis as compared to being more carbohydrate fueled in that same 4 rep range, which would mean that if he was consuming glycogen, he would have a better substrate activation or utilization effect, instead of just simply relying upon ketones or fat, as the primary fuel source. So very interesting. And I think I would actually agree with that. Now, most people who follow ketogenic diets, and I think this is where they go wrong, and possibly to Steve's point, they train too high. So they're constantly training. They're training in higher repetitions very intensely. And now they're forcing the liver to activate gluconeogenesis, to start converting amino acids into glucose to fuel that activity, which then can start to break down muscle tissue, or at the very least, not enhance greater benefits of muscle protein synthesis due to a lack of usable amino acids in the blood pool, because those aminos were then, siphoned off the side to convert back into glucose. So as they say, and we've said before, carbohydrates are protein sparing, right? That's what we're talking about here. Lack of carbohydrates means protein will not be spared in creating fuel. And I'm not sitting on the studies right now, but the fuel would be the most pressing need long-term over the amino acid availability. Right. So your body will preferentially. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like, you need that energy now. So we're not worried about, we should probably save this for later. You need that glucose now. So what can we pull from to convert that into glucose to use for your exercise?
Yeah.
So your body's not like, I should probably save this for muscle protein synthesis when I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everything's survival mechanism is kind of the concept, right? The body's like, I need this now to jump out of the way of the tiger chasing me, right? Very, very reptilian, right? I need this right now to move, to not to get aesthetic. Body doesn't understand. I'm being crushed under this load.
Yes.
I need to stand back up and get to safety. Bam, I need to create more glucose effectively. We'll figure out the aminos later, because this is the survival need at the very moment. So interesting conversation. And this is really more of a conversation that we're having, so everyone listening can think. Interesting. Like, as you then start to program your training alongside your nutrition plan, be aware of the fuel sources you have readily available, but the fuel type that is needed to do the things you're requiring of your body. And most people, they completely disconnect that. And that, again, I blame the ketogenic movement. I blame the intermittent fasting movement, that these are just conflated bullet points taken from, haphazardly taken from different studies to create a marketing scheme that does not have athletic and aesthetic benefit long-term.
Right. I think that's one of the major, marketing tools that's used, but a lot of the times it's the reason why people are tricked is because things in science or in biology or biochemistry happen in theory, but that's not how it truly works when you actually look at it and study it and research it. So yes, in theory, this supplement would enhance blah, 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 but does it really do anything? No. So it's the same thing where when diets are marketed, that in theory, this is what should happen, but does it really work? Is it sustainable? No.
Yeah. Agreed. Good stuff. Good stuff. We got a bunch of questions. Let's try to move these on. Alan, what's up, Alan? Good to see you, man. Life is good, bro. Life is good. Ready for summer over here. Ebros, what's up, Ebros? What's up? What's up? Good to see you, my man. DK asks, does adding lemon juice to my water affect my fasted state in the morning before my list? You want to grab that one? Or
I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Minimally. And here's the thought. And what my point is, when we perform fasted lists in the morning, we're trying to do so not because lack of food, we're doing so because of the insulin response of food. That's the point of it. So all we're trying to do is we're trying to more effectively incorporate those free fatty acids for that period of activity. But we also understand at a biochemical level, the presence of insulin makes this much more difficult, but also the presence of insulin interferes with the alpha and beta cell receptor inside the fat cell, making stubborn fat much more inefficient. So all we're trying to do, or another step of fasted list in the absence of insulin, is simply to cultivate an environment that our stubborn body parts, when we say gender-specific stubborn body parts, and maybe we won't say gender-specific as much anymore, but it seems to, as we have an aggregate of society, we can see. Guys, typically, we have lower belly fat, we have love handle fat, we have that lower nipple fat. Ladies get it a little bit more on the outer thighs, let's say, and kind of, on that tricep, upper back area. Guys don't really get it. So gender specific or not, regardless, stubborn fat. These stubborn fat areas are more stubborn in the presence of insulin. Therefore, let's remove the insulin and allow them to work better than they normally do. It is not spot reducing, as some people hear what I say and they spin it into some crazy, clickbait thing. It's not what I'm saying. We're trying to allow the stubborn areas become less stubborn and start working more like the average fat loss potential of the aggregate of cells that we have. So this is kind of, it's a quick and dirty response to a multitude of reasons we enjoy and strongly suggest fasted lists upon waking. But to answer your question, lemon juice, man, probably not to a massive degree, but I would say why. Let's just eliminate that, because that does have, and I believe that there is a small contribution of sugar, not knowing exactly as I'm sitting here right now, but that is a nutrient containing, a calorie containing ingredient or additive. Why? And people say, well, you have coffee. Well, we have super dark espresso and very minimal, just enough to get that caffeine burst. The reason is the inclusion of caffeine will outweigh any insignificant. Dr. Rhonda Patrick has also, I feel, very similar to the inclusion of caffeine outweighs any minuscule minor possibility of insulinogenic activity that is individually based, that many people won't have any. Some people might have an teensy little bit that's almost imperceivable.
Right.
So the inclusion of caffeine will take that a little bit farther if we're focused on fat loss. So kind of broader, a little bit of broader explanation here to make sense for people.
Yeah, I was trying to think, is there any calories in a drop of lemon juice? Or is it 5 calories? Does it actually matter?
Did you pull it up? Could you see any?
No, I didn't look it up. But same thing. Add your lemon to your water after you've done your list.
Yeah. And in lemon juice. Let's see. I'll pull it up right now. Why not? Calorie King. Let's see what Calorie King says. There is. It's half a gram of carbohydrate. Carbohydrate, and it's 0.1 gram of sugar. I mean, which is like nothing. It's
not really going to do much, yeah.
Minuscule, but at the same time, that more becomes an emotional response. And I would say, why? Is water so disgusting you can't drink water before you go and perform this specific activity and then have all the lemon water you want after that? Because I'm a fan of lemon water. I actually prefer limes to lemon, but at the same time, like, do you? So I would say, why? What's the point of that?
Right.
Cool. Well, good question, though, by the way. I appreciate that, DK. Caitlin says, love these Monday Q&A. When can't get fresh, what quality is better, canned or frozen?
Frozen.
Frozen. Yes.
100%. Yeah, most fruit and vegetables, we'll just say produce. Yes. It's called IQF, individually quickly frozen. So literally the product is picked off of whatever it's getting picked off of. It's like flash frozen. So all the nutrients are preserved, and then it's put in the package and shipped to the grocery store. Canned things have a load of preservatives, salt-containing products, all this stuff. It's sitting in that water. It can stay on a shelf for years. Okay, that's why people have canned foods in their doomsday bunkers, because they'll last forever because of the preservatives in them. So most frozen vegetables and fruit again, are just individually quickly frozen, flash frozen. All the nutrients are preserved. So definitely frozen.
Yes, agreed. 100%. Nothing to add. Mike Cotto says, my job has me up at 3:30 to 4 a.m. on most days. Yikes. Good for you, man. Hardworking young man right there. Much respect to you. But make sure you're getting to bed 9 hours, ideally before you have to wake up, which means you're going to fall asleep hopefully 8.5 to 8 hours before you have to wake up.
Yeah.
So that's always what we push towards. I know it's challenging in the modern world, but to live optimally, this is really where you have to start pushing.
Yep.
Mike Sepp in the house. What's up, Mike? David says, do you work with bodybuilders and fitness models? We absolutely do. We work with many in all divisions. The only bodybuilders we typically don't work with are active open bodybuilders, simply because the amount of drug use that they take is outside of our scope. Although we have worked with many open bodybuilders when their career ends, as they want to transition back to a much healthier lifestyle while maintaining a aesthetic physique, right? So let's say they're walking around in the off season at like 270 and they're competing at maybe 240. They don't want to do that anymore, but now they want to walk around at maybe in the 220s or 230s. So, and I'm thinking about, this is kind of very common, those weight ranges, anyone knows. We work with a lot of bikini competitors, a lot of fitness models. We work with actually many models. We work with actors and actresses who probably work harder, no disrespect to the bodybuilders and the aesthetic competitors, but the actors and actresses that we work with, they have to look almost like the fitness competitors while carrying a full load. Most actors and actresses, people don't know, those are 12 to 16-hour days, sometimes 40 days straight without a single day off. Like you get hired to do a job and then the production takes over and every minute is money. There is no, it's when, the production starts to the production ends, every single minute is money. There's no days off in that industry. And people are like, oh man, if I was an actor, actress, it'd be so easy for me. It's crazy hard. Now, the off season, when they're not assigned to a project, then it's the best life in the world. It's jet setting and villas in Italy and all the fun stuff. Sure. But I just want to say, like, the onset in production type of stuff, it's very rigorous. Ben Boyer, what's up, Ben? Good to see you, my man. Jocelyn Jones Liebarger, UFC veteran, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Jocelyn Jones Liebarger. Let's answer my question about a gas problem. Josh, thank you. Ever since I stopped fighting, when I eat any type of greens, I'm in pain. Gas pain. It's so bad. Lindsay, do you have any thoughts? And this is my fault, Josh. I was supposed to have asked Lindsay last week on this. She's now developed, after her competitive career kind of ended, whether that has anything to do with it or not, just on a timeline. So let's say over the last 6 months to a year, a noted discomfort to vegetables, green vegetables primarily. And I don't know if it's a specific 3 or 5, but it's something she's noted recently, and she's having trouble tracking it down. Do you have any insight?
I'm trying to think. That's kind of a strange occurrence that it happened in conjunction with when you stopped fighting.
That might not. So let's take that out of it, and let's just say, hey, someone comes to us and says, you know, green vegetables are really causing me discomfort. What are our thoughts?
Yeah. So I mean, my quick suggestion would be to make sure you're drinking plenty of water to just help the digestion process. Making sure that we're eating, fresh, organic types of vegetables, eliminating any sort of chemicals or anything like that could be on it. But something that comes out of nowhere, there might be something else going on, some sort of intolerance or something along those lines. I'm trying to think here.
I'm wondering now. Sorry not to cut you off, but to add, this actually, as we're speaking about it, Joss, hopefully you're still on and listening. Definitely you want to go to a gastroenterologist. Yeah. Right? If I always bash that word. But that you want to go who specializes in digestive health and drill this down a little further. But taking that on, there could be some sort of digestive issue. Maybe you're saying, hey, this is going on. I don't know why, but maybe you took antibiotics a year or so ago, and that completely disrupted the microbiome. Very common. Maybe it is a accumulation of H. pylori, which is, I think, 70 to 90% of the population has that, and it stays dormant for years and then slowly pops up in time. I would consider H. pylori. I would consider some sort of possible ill effect of antibiotics. Now, let's say just in general, someone comes, is there a specific elimination style of diet that would be common? And, like white potatoes, go on, just a white potato diet for 10 days and then slowly introduce like carrots, and you slowly start to introduce food groups to see if anything does set that off in time. Any thoughts on that, Linz?
Yeah, so I wouldn't even take it. I mean, first of all, yes, I totally agree with you, is definitely go see a doctor and get, maybe you have to get a scope or something like that, which sucks, but you want to figure out the issue. Yeah. But just from a nutrition standpoint, you don't even have to go that far as to like all the potatoes and things like that. It's the same thing. It's still elimination diet, but okay. Breakfast, I had green peppers and onions with my breakfast. Write that down. Figure out and feel how you feel over the next couple of hours. Okay. Lunch, I had kale and spinach. Write that down. See how you feel. So kind of trying to nail down the individual types of greens. Is it all vegetables or is it certain types of greens? What did I have with the greens? There's a lot of questions to be answered, but I would say definitely if it is that bad, and you were a fighter, so I'm sure your pain tolerance is very high. So if it's like, life-altering gas pain, then I would absolutely go to a doctor. Yeah.
And I think that would probably be, because it'd be hard. And the hard thing is that we can have some generalized information, but without a specific diagnosis, it's very difficult, because 10 different issues can have the same side effect, let's say, or can manifest in one way. And if you treat one of the 10 things, you won't treat anything, and you could actually make it worse. So again, unfortunately, I'd say go to the gastro, have a deeper conversation, and he or she might just have try this, or, move to something more specifically. They might throw you on a probiotic. I know Align is a very common probiotic. And I have a friend who is a gastro, and we had this conversation about probiotics. In his opinion, probiotics do vastly more harm than good. So people are now haphazardly adversely affecting their microbiome, thinking they're being healthy by listening to some kid at the health food store who read an article like on Mercola.com or something like that. And all of a sudden they're telling you to take in 12 billion, live probiotic cells per day or whatever that might be. And he said probiotics are very targeted. they're targeted to where they are best and what part of the digestive tract they actually end up. Some are for upper GI issues. Some are for small intestine. Some are for lower intestine. And he said, and if you don't know where they work best, what specifically you're targeting for, then this creates a massive imbalance that he said, then we have to start looking into more severe treatments. So, and the one thing he did say is Align. And I'd never heard of this before. It's sold traditionally like Walgreens, CVS. So you wouldn't think it's beneficial. He said that is the most beneficial of the probiotics for people who come into his office. He said, but everyone's looking to spend $100 a month instead of 20.
Right.
And they're listening. They're not listening to gastros like he is. It was really, I got to get him on the show, but you know, he's super busy and highly paid. So for him to donate, you know, an hour for us to answer all these questions, you know, it'd be a little challenging. What's that?
You never know.
You never, it's he's literally working like 6.5 days a week, runs his own practice. He does surgery. He does all the scopes. Like, he's like, scope. And he's like, you know, it's like, it's not fun to do. He said, but it's, I mean, minimally invasive for sure. He's like, it's just, you know, you got, it's a general anesthetic, right? So you got to, you know, you got to be put under. He said he's more concerned with the anesthesia, not the scope. The scope's kind of an easy thing, but it's all the prep, the pre and post. Your throat is a little scratched up maybe for, you know, a day or two afterwards. You got to take a half a day off of work. And so it kind of, we had that conversation. I should have recorded the whole damn thing, by the way. I was just like, because we just got into a chat and I just, you know, we grabbed a cup of coffee and I just wound up drilling them like a podcast instead of just two buddies meeting up.
Next time you'll know to record.
And next time it's like, yeah, but next time I'm probably not going to bother. We're just going to talk about kids and life and all the other stuff we have in common. All right, let's run through this. So Henrik says, I don't get much sleep. Is it ever detrimental to train with little sleep in the bag and better not to train that day if you're really feeling weak, as you can do after a couple of bad nights?
I mean, no sleep and little sleep is detrimental to everything, not just training.
Yeah.
As we just started this show talking about how I don't sleep enough, but no, really? Yeah.
But I know Henrik, like, he's an international businessman, to like a little bit more, and Henrik hopefully later don't mind sharing that. So sometimes it's like he's got to be up at 3 a.m. local time, and then all of a sudden the sun's coming up as he's getting off conference calls, and then the day begins. Right. You know, so like that kind of like disrupt, it's atypical. And then hopefully, you know, we can transition out of that lifestyle, Henrik. But I know we have worlds to conquer, my friend. So continue on. Or
drill down somewhat of a schedule. But no, I mean, if you're feeling super weak and you feel like you might be, you know, going to hurt yourself in the gym, then take a day off, recover. You know, if you're feeling super, super run down, exercise is a stressor on your body. Yeah. So you're adding to that fatigue. You know, if you're just feeling kind of tired, you know, a little sleepy or something like that, then exercise is awesome.
Yeah.
Most of the time, aside from being like physically sore and tired, you have more energy after you exercise. Yeah. Like, I know any morning, like we were saying, I train people at 5 o'clock in the morning and they come in dragging like their hoods up. My client this morning, it was so cold. She had her hood up with the strings tied, like looking like this with her face.
Is that like Kenny?
Yeah. Towards the end, she's like, okay, I'm ready to attack the day. So yeah. I think it depends on the severity of your tiredness and fatigue, but yeah, trying to drill down a schedule.
I agree. And then if you do get up, I would say super low intensity, passive exercise, and that might make you feel better. Put on a little yoga DVD or stretching, which might not seem like a workout, but that's likely much better for you. Just get some good blood flow, heat up your core temperature, get a little bit of a sweat, purification, and kind of go through the day. I wouldn't also be opposed to taking that time to visualize and meditate, even go back to bed if possible, but then be a little worry of going to sleep at 7 a.m. when you have to wake back up at 8 o'clock. That might cause more harm than good, right? So it's kind of like more of like a visualization, active recovery style, giving you the ability to later on go push it. Because I've been there too. It gets crazy. Caitlin, also heard you talk about cutting carbs at night, but say the best time to eat is after workout. What if I'm working out at night? My dinner's 6:30 to 7. Oh, for that one, I think it's pretty easy. I would have my normal dinner, but I would probably, depending on goals. Now, here's the thing with carbohydrates. I think it's simple. If I'm trying to get super lean, I'm going to drop my nighttime carbohydrates and I'm going to push my nighttime meal farther away from bedtime. If I'm trying to build lean functional muscle tissue and relative, normal or maintenance body fat, I'm going to eat a well-balanced meal before bed and still try and keep that 2 to 3 hour window. If I'm trying to get fucking huge and not super concerned about managing body fat, not trying to get fat, but I'm not worried, I'm going to eat a full meal right before bed. And then I'm going to hit some fasted cardio, probably only 20 minutes, let's say, in the morning if I'm on the bulking phase. So where are you right now, Caitlin, would be the question. So if I'm trying to get summer ready, I'm having, piece of protein, some green veggies or, a big bowl of veggies on the side. I'm going to go to bed a little bit hungry, a little bit of, that little bit of, ghrelin response and, not super stoked about it. I'm going to optimize that growth hormone pulse. I'm going to, get a better, higher levels of lipolysis while sleeping. But at the same time, I won't be replicating as much new muscle tissue. If I can get that bigger full meal before bed, then I will do that. And then if I'm trying to bulk, I'm going to do that. And we know some bodybuilders that they keep a shake next to their bed. They wake up in the middle of the night and they'll drink shake. They'll go back to sleep. I used to do that too, back in the knucklehead days. I wouldn't suggest that, by the way. So all based upon your goal, kind of long answer, but I made it maybe more complex than it needed to be.
Yeah, no, I think for the vast majority of people, I'd say, I'm just going to guess that your goal is to be summer ready. That's just the easy guess. I might be wrong, but the other thing to think of,
to be summer ready, click the link below, ladies and gentlemen. We got a great program for you guys, 4 and 12 week plan plus a 25% discount. Get summer ready. By the way, that's there. If you want it, you need it. It's there for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, depending on what type of workout you did, if you just went for a run or something like that, then your body's glycogen hungry anyway. So if you're eating carbs, they're going to get sucked right up into your cells.
Yep.
So you're replenishing, if you spill over that threshold. So again, I would say keep the portion slightly smaller. You're not going to eat this huge bowl of pasta or something like that, but
no.
You're also doing your body a service in replenishing those glycogen stores that you used up. Yeah.
And it's a tough one, but also be aware of the type of workout you just did.
Exactly.
If I'm struggling under, let's say 20 rep breathing squats at 70% of my 1 RM, my God, I need to put carbs back in or I'm going to wake up dead tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or right. That's horrific. But if I'm doing a little bit more of shoulders and triceps and, I'm training hard, but it's hard to really train super intensely, right, for that small little bit of muscle group. So I'd be aware of that. And you might consider that also, that those times that you do train it at night, if you can scale that. And I try and have my hard, heavy, high glycolytic workouts in the middle of the day where I've had 2 or 3 meals and I have 2 or 3 meals afterwards. If I'm just trying to get a little bit of maybe drilling, wrestling practice, we'll drill at night, which is not super hard, but we go hard in the middle of the day, typically 2-hour practices or strength training stuff. We want to do the harder stuff where you get more time to recover in between, more time to refeed afterwards. So keep that in mind if you have autonomy over your schedule.
Right.
Sharon says, is there anything you would change to the 3 weeks to shredded for someone who is insulin resistant? You have any thoughts on that? And or just let's say insulin resistant in general. Is there any sort of specific techniques that we should consider dietitians? And I don't want to be specific to you, Sharon, for sure. And I don't want to be specific to anyone who's insulin resistant. So we're just kind of speaking for information purposes only. Do not try this at home without speaking to your doctor.
Yeah. The easiest answer would be to space out your carbohydrate throughout the day. So stay away from a high carbohydrate meal. So if the recipe calls for, a large portion of carbohydrates, just cut it down a little bit. Because if you're introducing all that glucose at once and your insulin resistance, then your blood sugar is going to remain high for longer than it should. So if you're giving it slower, small kind of boluses of carbohydrate throughout the day, giving your body, that is, then I think it would be a little bit more beneficial. Now, again, we're not trying to be specific, but it depends. Like, do you have diabetes? Were you diagnosed as insulin resistant? So it all depends, but that's my kind of short answer, is just keep the portion small and evenly spaced throughout the day rather than one bulk heavy carbohydrate meal.
And that's so the one thing I would say, and I agree completely, and you'll find that our 3 weeks to shredded program is created exactly as Lindsay had said. There are small inclusions of carbohydrates spread evenly throughout the day, with the exception of the first meal. So the first meal, the breakfast bowl, has the highest gross insulin or gross carbohydrate inclusion, but it is also heavily mediated through fats, fiber, and protein, which dramatically diminishes the insulinogenic response. That being said, though, I'm not saying consume that. I'm saying be aware of it. But you'll see on 3 weeks to shredded, also, we're talking about maybe a third of a cup of oats, right? Which is not that much. Yes, there is fruit, but there's high fiber content. There is high fiber with the oats that we suggest. Also, chia seeds and hemp seeds and almond butter and or peanut butter. We also include cinnamon even, which has a beneficial impact on insulin. So not saying consume it, I'm saying be aware, and you might want to spread that deeper throughout the day. But of course, speak with your doctor. All right, what else do we got? We got John says, is the Dolce diet compatible with 16-8 intermittent fasting? That's 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of feeding. John, it is. I don't know that I would wholly suggest the 16-8 model. We found the majority of those who follow our 3 weeks to shredded program, their feeding window is 10 and a half hours, which means they're fasting for 20 or 13 and a half hours throughout the day, which is substantial. But it's because they stop eating a few hours before bed. They wake up, they perform, low intensity, steady state cardiovascular activity. They shower, hydrate, and they start their meals. Same with me. I'm usually right between 10 to 11 hours when I'm following the 3 weeks of shredded program. And I'm about to start my own 3 weeks of shredded program right now as I'm dialing in towards mid-April or so. And the kickoff for summer, which is, it's coming quick now. Here on the East Coast, it's coming. Friends on the West Coast, you're already hit with it. So hopefully that helps. Sonia. Yep, Lindsay, gotcha. Appreciate that. Let's try and run through. We're keeping. Sorry for being late today, everyone. I had landscapers show up the house. They were unscheduled, didn't know, and all of a sudden, I got this team of people just ripping through everything. My property, my pit bulls outside trying to eat everyone, and it was little crazy. Since starting UFC Fit, I've noticed that I'm super hungry. Should I just have a snack or should I have a meal? My legs are still on fire, by the way. Well, Sonia, to be fair, this is number one, metabolic activity has gone up dramatically from this style of training, which is great. Number two, likely old you is trying to trick you into not adapting and changing. So I would say, what is your goal? Are you trying to get lean and sculpted? If so, I would certainly try and battle against the urge, the emotional response to eat more. Not that I discount your hunger. And I would say, let's try and give it 3 to 10 days of mindfulness. I would drink a lot more water. I would drink warm water, lemon water, tea, green tea, black tea. Unsweetened will go a long way. For me, when I'm dieting, having something warm in my hand really helps me because it's emotional for me. Now, if we look at your total, nutrient intake and we find like, wow, you're only, but if you're following the FIT program, and again, if you're following the FIT program, that's not a 40 program like our 3 weeks to shredded or living lean plan is, which everyone can click below and see that. That is programmed to the individual. The FIT program is in a book, and you have probably made your own plan out of that. So I would be curious as to what your total nutrient intake is. You might have shot just a little low out of the gate. I'm not sure. I would say, Sonia, follow the UFC Fit exercise plan in conjunction with the online Living Lean program. So then you'll know every single calorie is exact to your current needs. And then you can have a blast following the FIT plan. We have a lot of people who still do that I mean, this is going on 7 years now since we launched Fit 2014, 6-7 years. Yeah.
Yeah. My little tip for a lot of people would be, especially when people first start exercising, there's actually good research on this, that people, when they say they have, they're going to run a half marathon. So they start a training program for a half marathon.
Yep.
Over the 12 weeks, they actually gain like 15 pounds. So, and the reason for that most of the time is that, people are like, oh my gosh, I just ran 7 miles for the first time in my whole life. I'm going to get a pizza. So people are like, holy shit, I just burned 1,400 calories. I could eat whatever I want today.
Yeah.
So understanding that it's not always, you work out to earn your food every single time. That's not how it should work. And I know for people that don't normally exercise and started exercising, it's much more fatiguing. They're not used to that feeling in their body. They might feel very hungry. So you might load your plate up with this huge portion of food. And because you're very hungry and you're like overeating with your brain before you're actually overeating with your fork, pretty much. So putting smaller portions, eating a little bit slower, chewing your food, just being mindful of your hunger cues. So if you start to feel full, start to slow down. Don't eat until you're uncomfortable. So a lot of people do that. So kind of getting away from the, I just worked out for an hour, so here comes my burrito.
That's super true. And it's removing the emotional impact of food matters. And that's why I love sticking to a plan, because I can easily become an emotional eater. And problem with me is I can be like, well, I'm a diet guy. Like, I can make up my own plan because I'm so smart. I know this inside and out. But emotionally, I'll trick myself into eating more carbs maybe because I still have the emotional impact of life and society and family and stress and anxiety. So I'm also, thank God, I know enough to know that I'm conspiring against myself, just like everybody in here is. Like, I go through all that same crappy self-talk, and I say it's fat me is trying to sabotage lean me. Fat me, trust me, guys and gals, fat me is always chirping in my ear. Man, I live in New Jersey. I should be eating pork roll, egg, and cheese sandwiches every morning because I deserve them and I work hard and I got hard training and I need the extra calories. Didn't eat enough carbs. I got these, big, bent over row session, or I wrestling practice really hard yesterday. And I should probably go have pizza and garlic and cheese bread and a few beers because I actually have created the space. All this stuff literally goes on in my head. And at the same time, I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, I know it's bullshit. And then I'll eat my salmon and my rice and my Brussels sprouts or whatever it is. And I feel great.
Give yourself a high five.
Yeah. And then it all kind of goes away. So be aware of that. It's a great point, Lindsay. Henrik, thank you, brother, for the €5 super chat donation, brother. Very cool of you. Much appreciated. Tristan, down 17 pounds since Christmas. Awesome, Tristan. Following our online program, ladies and gentlemen, definitely take a look at that below if you're interested. Change your life. Summer is coming. Lindsay, how much longer do you have to go? I don't want to keep you. I want to be very conscious of your time. And thank you so much for being here.
I mean, we could do a couple more questions here.
Do a couple more, and I might stay on just a little bit longer after you jump out because I want to run through. Diesel, thank you. Appreciate you. Mike Seth says, after my workouts, I find it very difficult to keep my heart rate below 110. Does that really matter post-workout? Well, that would be your list. I'm assuming you're talking about, because heart rate will go up and then it'll slowly come back down to, your baseline activity. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Seth.
Yeah, I don't know. If your heart rate doesn't go back down below 110 after you're working out, then you need to see a cardiologist. Go
to doctor. Yeah. So after I find it difficult to keep my heart rate below 110. So is that like 30 minutes after any workout? Your heart rate should go back to baseline, unless it was super crazy, like breathing squats. I could see it taking a little longer or doing something out of the ordinary. Traditional workout, you should be back to normal within 30 minutes.
At least, a few minutes.
Most people should be 60s to 70s on average, right? Average walking heart rate, let's say, not quite full resting, an average waking heart rate, let's say?
Check it.
I'm at 72 right now, sitting here talking to you guys, by the way, the Apple Watch.
68.
Always got to one up me, Linz, don't you? Yeah, good for you. I am older though, by the way. I'm older.
That's true. I'll give you that.
There's a sliding curve here.
And you're drinking coffee currently.
No, that is true. This is like this is a big cup, by the way. Science. True. Look at you, Professor. Jake, the vast majority of people don't care much about nutrition. How do you both manage social interactions with food and drink? How often do you relax and eat something off menu with family or friends? Great question. Jake, Lindsay, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah. I like to be human, but I also like to honor, my body and give my body what it needs. Yep. And it's the same as you guys. Like, we struggle with this stuff too. We're not perfect. We're not like robot bionic humans that never have an alcoholic beverage or never, eat something that we know is not the best for us. But it's just knowing how often you're able to do that. And knowing, I don't want to say the consequence because we don't want to make it this negative thing, but knowing that you're not doing the best thing for your body. So I would say it's definitely hard when we're at like social gatherings, although it's been a while since, the Rona has come about. Yeah. But, if I'm with my family or something like that, they're like, oh, Lindsay, you're such a dietitian, like with my food choices. Like, yeah. Well, here I am. And I almost use it not to make other people feel guilty, but use it as an educational point. But no, we're all human. I don't know how often I do.
I do what I call it's social eating.
Yeah.
And for me, experiential eating. And that doesn't mean, because like I go out almost every day to eat. I go to a cafe or something. There's really good places in the area that I'm in. There's little organic restaurants and like a little paleo place, and there's like a vegan shop. And like, so each day, like I know I'm going to get one of these things, and I live on the water, and there's like literally fish, fresh fish. You watch it come off the boat into the kitchen. And it's like, yeah, I want that guy. Like, so it's like that stuff is here. So it's super easy to eat healthy and be social. But at the same time, it was my nephew's first birthday over the weekend, and the entire family's there, and it's just a beautiful spread, and it's like all this great food. And I ate before I went. I didn't eat any of the stuff. Not that I couldn't. I chose not to in that moment, and was completely social and no issues and no worries and all the other stuff, and had fun. And then the next night, I went out and got pizza with the family, with, my family. So it's like, I'm in that one situation and everyone's eating, and like, I'm there just kind of like hanging out, and they're making fun of me because I'm not eating it. And I said, no, like, I'm fine right now. Like, no urge, no hunger. I knew I'd be going to, for me, it was more important to like go to the pizza shop with my kids and have that dinner. So experiential, it's like, well, what experience do I want to have? I'm not a cake guy. Like I enjoy cake, but it's like that, like I'll taste it like, oh, that tastes good. And all of a sudden it'll jack up my gut. It'll make me feel worse. I can feel, because I'm very insulin sensitive. Also, blood sugar issues run in my family. Diabetes runs in my family. I don't want that. To me, that looks like heroin to me. Like it literally, and I'm not saying that because I'm a goody two-shoe. I'm saying it because I understand the molecular structure and I understand the physiological impact of that, and it scares the shit out of me. And it is not tasty. It is not, doesn't make me, I'm not pulled towards that at all. And this is something that everyone should understand and become a little more mindful about, where I also understand what's in a slice of pizza. But for me to go and have a slice of pizza with my kids and like enjoy that, because there's this great local place. It's been in business over 100 years. It's some of the best pizza I've ever eaten in my entire life. To go and have that nice experience as the weather's starting to turn, they have this little outside patio. That was more of the pull. So to answer your question, like, dude, we're very normal people. We just don't do it every day. And we can be in a social situation where everyone else is eating poorly. And I will say, throwing my family under the bus. I was by far the most fit person there. By far, regardless of, and I was one of the older people there. There's, kids in their 20s, to be respectful, they're grown adults. I was in way better shape than every single person in that room. But they're all making fun of me. Mm-hmm. Well, I could have easily said, like, all right, let's see your abs, everyone. Let's have an ab contest right now. And you want to make fun of each other? Let's have an ab contest. Let's jump out in the swimming pool. Let's put on our bathing suits right now. Who's going to be uncomfortable? Like, who's the first one ready to jump in the pool? It's this guy. Like, and I say this again, just from an educational opportunity, because I think it's a great question, Jake, that people like us are often now, we're criticized by those who don't do what we do, but want the benefits of doing what we do. That becomes most common. And that's a hard one because, I love everyone. I want to help everyone. I want to see everyone do well and live the lives that Lindsay and I and many others are living, but they're not willing to say no to the piece of cake or to the baked beans with bacon cooked in it and smelled abso-freaking-lutely delicious, of course. And the pulled pork in the crock pot, amazing, I'm sure. Big old thing of mac and cheese. I mean, this was a great spread. And Fat Mike, 26-year-old Mike would have eaten everything and then probably taken a nap on the couch, woke up and eaten it again. It just didn't make sense. So make good decisions for yourself. But I got my workout in that day. And I know I'm going long right now. I'm just giving context. I got my workout in that day. And then when I came home, like from the pizza, and I hopped on the elliptical for 30 minutes just to mediate the insulin output from eating the food, to kind of, create a little bit of caloric space from that. And I just to kind of make those better decisions, and also to outpace a little bit of the guilt that, full transparency I had. I was like, man, maybe I ate a couple more slices of pizza than I really needed to. Maybe I did have some of the garlic and cheese bread, which was absolutely delicious, dipped in marinara sauce. Maybe I did.
Sounds good to me.
It's right. It's super good. Oh my God. Yeah. So big picture, we are totally freaking normal, just like everyone else. Not on a bodybuilder diet, right? Which is insanity. That's very disordered. Mm-hmm. My lifestyle, it's like I could have eaten the cake if I wanted to. I chose not to. I didn't want the cake. I wanted a piece of pizza the next day.
Right.
And and I haven't eaten anything poorly since. And it was like, man, just awesome meals. Like I have no desire to eat anything bad. I can't wait until my salmon meal that comes up after the show today. Super. Like I can't wait for that meal.
Yeah. I think like two major take home messages would be, one, don't let other people make you feel bad about doing something good for your body.
Yeah.
Like if you're paying attention to your nutrition and your fitness and all that stuff, don't let people make fun of you for that. Like that's not a friend. I know it's all fun and games, but like you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of your longevity and your health. So if somebody wants to make fun of you for that, who cares? I know we don't go by the the sticks and stones phrase anymore, but sticks and stones break my bones. Words may never hurt me.
Yeah, that's it. Apparently words do hurt.
Now they do.
Right? George, thank you both for more great content. Look forward to this each week. Thank you. Appreciate you guys being here. This is certainly my favorite part of the week, is getting in and having the conversation with you guys, of course, and being able to, have Lindsay on and just talk about all this with you. Dubson says, Mike and Lindsay, are you guys familiar with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon? She talks about how muscle protein synthesis is hypersensitive post-exercise. We need less of it. Didn't touch on the training, though. I don't know. Sorry, out of the gate, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, I haven't read her work, so I don't think it would be fair to offer. And I'm just keeping a note right now so I can take a look later.
Yeah, I just wrote it down.
See, this is what we do, right? I don't know. So I think maybe next time on the show, maybe Lindsay and I will have a minute to go through and read some of her work, because man, she might be spot on. Who knows? But as I sit here right now, I can't comment. I have no idea. Dove saying she's awesome. You guys should check her out. She also works with Dr. Lehman, a guru in protein metabolism. Cool. Good to know. Jay-Z, Hova. I know you look at nutrition from a performance perspective, but how do you feel about fasting for longevity and spiritual purposes? Do you care to answer offer anything?
Yeah, me personally, I don't have any, spiritual or religious reasons for fasting, but I know plenty of people who do. People who are, I don't want to say extremely religious, but extremely in touch with that spiritual side of things. And if that's part of what makes them feel better, do it. I think it also needs to be done in a safe manner. I actually used to train somebody who, for an entire month fasted, not a whole month, but, you eat for 1 hour a day. And he would come in he fell asleep in his car in the parking lot because he was so exhausted that he, got to the session early, fell asleep in his car, couldn't come inside to do the workout. So I'm like, if it's affecting your life that negatively, maybe really reevaluate. But I mean, if that's part of your, your spiritual purpose, if it's a day or if it's a 4-week period, whatever it may be, for whatever purpose, do it. If that's if that brings you joy and connection and whatever else.
Yep. And I agree. Like if it's a spiritual issue, it's a philosophical issue, if it's an ethical issue, veganism and whatnot, fasting, hey, do you like completely support people? Right. I have a conflict when people speak about the strict health benefit that fasting is the best way to go.
Exactly.
And we always say, well, as compared to what? Because fasting is much better than certain dietary practices, but not all dietary practices. So I think we just kind of put it in context and it makes it a lot easier for longevity and spiritual purposes. And I think as we age, it makes sense to reduce total caloric intake, but it's as compared to what? Does that mean that at 65 years old, you should eat 500 calories or 2,500 calories? So again, as compared to what? As we get older, we should get lighter, we should get leaner, but not so light and so lean that we actually become frail. And we see that a lot with the elder generation, to be fair, where they become so light and so frail, they break their bones by tying their shoes. And often that becomes a very serious health issue. So there's a fine line. I think strength training, resistance training, eating a healthful, high net nutrient diet matters. Not eating in a caloric surplus, especially as we get older, that matters. Fasting, I'm okay as we get a little older. Maybe, kind of like the, bigger breakfast, medium lunch, kind of smaller dinner. That might make a little more sense to give a lot more, digestive cleansing, not overtaxing the digestive system as we get a little older. That may make sense. I'm not, fully set on that because I've seen compelling data on both sides. And I think the quality of food you consume is probably the biggest issue. Like people talk about fasting, but they don't talk about the quality of nutrients consumed. So fasting on donuts, that's probably not better than eating 4 healthful, well-balanced meals per day of non-processed foods.
Yeah. We could even speak just the, I see Helen.
I know. Oh, I'm going to yell, motherfucker.
Yeah. We could all yell if we want to.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, right now is especially in, northeastern Pennsylvania, it's huge Italian Catholic area. And so it's Lent right now. And it's everybody eats pizza on Friday. Oh, yeah. That's all there is. I'm like, what's wrong with seafood?
Yeah.
You could have fish. This is a form of fasting, not eating certain forms of meat, but it's so crazy. Like you look at any pizza place around here on a Friday, it's like a line out the door. It's crazy.
Of course. That's funny. It's an excuse to abuse themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And they've likely eaten like crap all week long. It's not like that pizza meal's like, hey man, go I'm at Italian, eat pizza, like whatever. Like I just told the story about eating pizza, but I didn't eat pizza the night before or Kentucky Fried Chicken or Taco Bell or like whatever other crappy thing. And they probably eat crappy all week. And then they have pizza because they can't quote eat meat. Mm-hmm. That's an issue.
I'm like, darn it, I have to eat pizza today because there's nothing else to eat.
Yeah. That's I agree. And that it should be fish. right? They should have their piece of salmon, their, big old, pile of veggies, a little bit of, potato on the side or whatever. And that would be the way to do it. Jeff says, soy milk, okay to have in smoothies?
I mean, if you like it. There's a lot of mixed research on if soy is good for you, if soy is bad for you. I actually don't put any milk in my smoothies. I'm just not a big dairy person at all.
Yeah.
I usually recommend almond milk, but I think it comes down to a personal preference and looking at, sugar content in that milk, looking at protein content in that milk. So that's kind of my answer there.
I agree. I'm not against it per se. I think there's better options, and I'm a water, coconut water type of guy. Also, Savage Mystery says, I want whole milk with my coffee. Fuck all you. Like, you clearly don't understand what we're talking about, dude, or do that. So irrelevant conversation. Not near. It's funny that we hardly have any trolls in here, which is pretty cool.
I don't understand. Why waste your time even spending the time to type something out like that? It's just dumb.
We get tons. Jake lost 40 pounds doing 3 weeks to shredded over 14 months. That doesn't make sense, Jake. It's a 3-week program. I developed kidney stones short after I hit my goal. Jake, I don't know if maybe this is a bit of a troll. I'm not sure. Maybe you're clear and obvious. So kidney stones, by and large, is not uncommon, right? It is actually rather common. Genetics have a strong impact on kidney stones. So I would kind of talk to your family and see. Of course, diet does have an impact on kidney stones. What else does actually can excess body weight is one of them. Excess body weight and genetics are the primary indicators of developing kidney stones. So it's something to be concerned about, but 3 weeks of shredded is a 3-week program. It is not a 14-month program. And I'm assuming you didn't follow 3 weeks to shredded 20 times back to back for a year. So I'm sure there was a lot of time off and in between. So I don't know that your question or your conclusion tracks well. But again, speak with your doctor and don't mess around. Definitely talk to your doctor, see what's going on in life, make sure you're clear right now, be aware of it. Fortunately, kidney stones are relatively, more uncomfortable than anything else, big picture, but work with your doctor and make sure it's, you're healthy. Steve says, am I able to take creatine monohydrate first thing in the morning on my fast with water? Yeah, but be careful. And here's something interesting about creatine. When you mix creatine, you have to mix it until it's completely clear. If it's not clear, it can cause some digestive distress that a lot of people get. They scoop it in, they shake it, they drink it down with their protein powder, and then they get that kind of sour stomach. Creatine, you need to shake it and mix it until it's completely clear. And a little pro tip is to mix it in warm water, which expedites the dissolving of the creatine crystals or molecules. But shake it all the way through so it runs completely clear, and then drink it from that point. I forget where is that. That might have been Will Brink might be the first one to have spoken about that a decade or more or so, because I used to get discomfort from drinking creatine, and I read one of his articles on it, and just really hard to digest. That's the body has a serious issue trying to process it, so you mix it till it's completely runs clear.
Especially and on an empty stomach.
I'm sorry?
Especially in the morning on an empty stomach.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, when I just reading that, I was like, yuck, I would never do that. Usually I'll drink mine right after a meal, and I'm not. People are like, oh, you have to do it right before your workout or right after your workout. Most of the data now clearly shows it's the accumulation effect of creatine that matters most. If you're getting your 5 grams in per day, there's going to be we might be able to show something in a petri dish, let's say, but there's going to be no discernible impact to your life the time you're taking it, for sure. Lemon juice. Yep. Caffeine can serve as a fat burner. It does have thermogenic properties. All right. Cole says, are there negative effects to completing more than 1.5 hours of fasted lists in the morning? From my perspective, yes, because the longer you perform that type of activity, the more you're going to start utilizing stored glycogen. As we see heart rate starts to creep up, you start to drip out more glucose, and it's a different style of training. That to me is more hiking, right? Hour and a half of low intensity, steady state cardiovascular activity, that becomes a moderate, intensity exercise. It no longer keeps the low intensity concept. Lindsay, if you want to share anything on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and this has to be my last question answered here today.
Okay.
But an hour and a half of a fasted list, are you walking on your treadmill for 90 minutes? That's a long time.
Yeah.
So your time just overall, I mean, everybody's time is, sensitive. Everybody has certain things they have to do throughout their day. So you would service yourself better than by doing maybe an hour of fasted list or 45 minutes and then taking that second 45 minutes and doing something hardcore later, rather than spending a whole hour and a half of your time in the morning, 35, 40 minutes. And then you have an hour later to do, your resistance training, your HIIT training, whatever it is.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. And same thing, you're eliminating the effects of list by going too long. You're eventually going to have to maintain your blood sugar. You might actually see a dip in your blood sugar.
Yep.
So that just kind of eliminates the fat burning effect of it.
Yeah. Boom. There you go. Well, Lindsay, I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes, try and run through as many of the more questions as I can before we jump off. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for staying long. Again, apologies for being late this morning, but you are awesome for jumping in and answering all these questions for us. And if anyone wants to work with Lindsay one-on-one, she also does private consultations with any of you. She's open. You can click that one-on-one link below. I actually have to put one specifically for you on this. I'll remember to do that next time. But you can click that link, go to DOLCEDietShop.com. You can do a 30-minute one-on-one consultation with Lindsay, which is amazing, and really drill down into your life. You can also work with her one-on-one to develop an 8-week personalized nutrition and lifestyle program. We call it the My Diet program. You can link to that below. That's all at DOLCEDietShop.com. Lindsay, you are awesome. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Everybody enjoy the rest of their Monday.
That's right.
And I guess we'll see you guys next week.
See you next Monday at 11 a.m. I will be sharp this time.
Okay. Sounds
Cool.
good.
All right, Liz. Thank you.
All right.
Bye. All right. There she goes. Professor Lindsay Howard MS, RD, LRD, CSCS, and DDC. Lindsay is also the lead instructor for the nutrition and dietetics portion of our certification and fitness conference. If anyone is interested, click the link below for that. We have our pre-registration is almost over to get Dolce Diet certified. This is a 3-day course learning everything you need to know about nutrition and dietetics from Professor Howard. Also, I teach the business and financial portions of running a cash flow positive global brand to free yourself up to live the life you truly want, and providing financial security for yourself, for your family. So this is a fitness conference while you get certified in as a Dolce Diet certified coach, and you work alongside our brand. Lots of great stuff. Click that link below. Learn more about it on the site. Our pre-registration for that is almost over. We had the first tier, which was a 50% discount. That sold out pretty quick. I think we're at a 30% discount right now, and then we'll go to full price. Our last course sold out 2 weeks early, and we're right around 2 weeks out right now from the next one. So definitely take a look at that, guys. Goat milk or almond milk, personal preference. I don't really have an opinion on that. I'm more of an oat milk guy if and when I actually do it. Famish says, will eating your maintenance calories in one meal make you gain fat? No. One meal, now is it one meal a day for 365 days? I would be more concerned about digestive efficiency than anything else, and that might become an issue. Ian says, does the 3 weeks to shredded program require me to count macros? No. All of your macros are already calibrated for you. All of your calories are already calibrated for you. But this is not a calorie program. It is not a macro program. This is a micronutrient program. We create every single program based upon the micronutrient efficiency of that meal plan for you. This is a personalized plan. You can click the link below to check it out at thedolcediet.com. We have a 25% discount with promo code TRANSFORM if you are interested. This is a personalized online plan available on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, created by myself, our team of registered dietitians and exercise physiologists. In the actual creation phase, we then turned it into an online, fully interactive platform, which is so different than nearly every other nutrition weight loss plan out there, which are simple Excel spreadsheets effectively. They are just template programs with a calorie equation associated to it, and that is it. That is not our plan, which is why ours is the #1 rated online healthy weight loss program. So definitely check that out, and it's all taken care of for you. It is like setting the GPS to your most ideal body. That's the best way to explain it. DK says the Motivational Doc YouTube channel says lemon water first thing in the morning on an empty stomach has many benefits. Yeah, and I like lemon water, but I just say, hey, if we're going to do that before lists, what's the point? So we got to pick and choose. Brian says, how do diets change per the athlete and the sport the athlete is participating in? Activity. It really doesn't change. Like, we don't feed a basketball player necessarily different than a gymnast. We look at the body type, we look at their training, we look at their lifestyle, we look at their schedule, we look at, body mass, body composition, we look at their, performance attributes, how they need to compete. We look at, we do a comprehensive medical analysis, we get blood work done, and we look for any sort of deficiencies. We look to optimize their net nutrient intake, make sure they have enough calories to push to the level they need to with the right macronutrient profile to facilitate lean muscle tissue and proper fueling. But it's honestly, I say Ronda Rousey had the exact same grocery list as my grandmother, right? So it was the individual implementation was slightly different, but it was the exact same foods. Icon, if you could have one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Well, that's always a tough one. I will say earth-grown food. Ooh, my infinite L intensity lawyered the hell out of that one. Don't forget that thumbs up, everyone. Yep. Antibiotics and fiber foods are hard to break down. That's true. Thoughts on fat loss? Fat loss without muscle gain for women. Muscle gain seems to be quicker for me and not my preference. Interesting, Sarah. I'd be curious though, how you were analyzing muscle gain. Were you getting a DEXA scan or a bod pod or hydrostatic weighing? Like, how do we understand that it's truly muscle gain? Not saying it's not, but I'm a data guy. I love to look at the data, analyze the data. So how do we know definitively that it's actually gaining muscle? And maybe it's just fluid retention due to strength training. Your muscles are now just holding more fluid and glycogen because you're training more intensely. It might not necessarily be actual growth of individual muscle fibers or improved density of the muscle fibers. That being said, we do look to facilitate muscle growth while losing fat because we want to maintain muscle. And here's why, Sarah. Many people who follow a weight loss program will lose muscle at a greater rate than body fat. And though the scale will go down 5, 10, 20 pounds or more, what they find is their body fat percentage actually goes up. That is a scary thing. And that's when skinny fat syndrome sets in, which we do not want. So to answer your question, fat loss without muscle gain, I would say you have to be very specific. Now, you might consider, and I would strongly suggest you check out our 3 Weeks to Shredded program below, because that is focused on getting our athletes as lean as possible. As we can see, maybe this man right here, as lean as possible, while not sacrificing muscle tissue and creating that skinny fat syndrome. Works extremely well for ladies, works extremely well for women. Women have been crushing it on the 3 Weeks to Shredded program, by the way. That's a thought, but you want your muscle. You want your muscle, right? You work so hard to build muscle, and the more body fat you lose, the more precious your muscle actually becomes. And it's challenging for non-assisted women to grow a disproportionate amount of muscle simply due to your hormone panel. Like it will become harder long-term to grow too much muscle. And that is a concern. And I understand that. Hopefully this is helpful. Without knowing you, it becomes a little more challenging. Brian asked with the $5 super chat donation. Very cool of you. I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you. Thank you. Ben Boyer with the $5 super chat donation. Ben, you are the man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's very cool of you guys. Appreciate you. What else do we got here? There's a lot of questions here, so I apologize if I'm not answering them fast enough. And I can't stay on that much longer, my friends. I apologize. We're an hour and 40 minutes deep into this. It was going to be a 60-minute, which is awesome. What else we got? And Jorge Masvidal's in the house. What's up, Georgie? Well, Adam, what's up, Adam Hart? Adam says, I think people like Eddie Hall and other World's Strongest Men competitors wake up and eat, then go back to bed. Absolutely the truth, Adam. That's exactly what they do. And that's how, like, if you want to pack on maximum amount of body weight, that's what you do. It is certainly not suggested long-term. It is not sustainable long-term, and it is not healthy long-term. It becomes quite an issue long-term. So I would be, I wouldn't suggest it, though I did do that when I was in my early and mid-20s trying to constantly bulk up. Which food? Ha! Masvidal. That's funny. That's funny. Yep. Answer. There's a ton of questions here, so I'm trying to go through and get this. Timo says, is it better to work out after you go to sleep and wake up in the morning with water, or eating 2 or 3 meals, then working out with high intensity? Great question, Timo. It is always better, in our opinion, to train at high levels of intensity after eating, usually 2 meals or 4 hours after waking, ideally because the central nervous system is more active and you're able to perform complex movements at a higher level of proficiency. And also you've been able to feed, which allows for greater fuel usage for that specific activity. If we wake, also hydration levels, when we wake up, we are chronically dehydrated, which is why hydration is so important first thing in the morning. Our central nervous system is not operating optimally first thing in the morning. We are like, oh, you're just kind of a little bit out of it first thing in the morning. It takes time for that to slowly build. Think in terms of your car warming up, and it takes time to build to be optimal. But then we peak midday. Yeah. You go through all the stresses and the BS that you deal with in your day, and then you kind of crash on the back end. We found, anecdotally, not true scientific study here, that between 11 and 3 p.m. seems ideal to train at high intensity. You've had a few hours to wake, you've had a couple meals, you haven't had the woes of the day wear on you, and you can get great workouts. And it's almost time for me to hit my workout here, by the way. David says, I walk and move products around at my job in the morning. I'm mostly walking, but at some moments standing in place. Should I extend the list time? Am I yielding the same results if it's not 100% steady? Well, Dave, I don't know that I would call that list. If you're working, you're moving. A lot of people think that, but technically that's not list. If you're already at work, my man, I would have loved for you to hit your list first thing in the morning upon waking, super hydrated, have a meal, and then get to work, and then start to add what's called NEAT, non-exercise associated thermogenesis, which is your body's utilization of extra calories through basic movement, not associated with activity or with exercise. Nanny says, dairy products on cutting phase. Do you eat cheeses, etc.? Very, very, very sparingly, hardly at ever. And if so, white cheeses, primarily fresh mozzarella. Adam, my man. The Living Lean program is the bomb. I'm on the second week of 3 weeks to shred at the end of my 12 weeks. Bro, I am so excited to hear of your results, Adam. Freaking crushing it, by the way, my man. Super, super excited to be working with you, Adam. Adam Hart, everyone. Newly certified Dolce Diet coach, but long time fitness professional, fitness OG, we should say. Brian says, great show. Maybe the name should be updated to the Dolce and Lindsay show. Possibly. I think Ask the Dietitian is very descriptive. And then, giving her, of course, marquee Dr. or Professor Lindsay Howard. Does the corn in the Dolce diet have a specific purpose? Well, it does from a carbohydrate perspective, and because it's delicious, and because it adds variety to the menu. So all those answers is yes. What is LISS? LISS is low intensity, steady state cardiovascular activity. And I think truth is here. Already answered that, which I appreciate that. Thank you. Mike, there is no fat burning zone. Who told you that? Your body is using most fat when relaxed. I think Lindsay actually did touch on that. We're actually metabolizing the fat. We're releasing the fat when we're not moving, right? Because of the amount of energy that it takes. That's why sleeping is when we actually release most of our fat. And that's through respiration. The water molecules that we're breathing out, believe it or not, is the majority of our fat leaving our body. Interesting. But we are stimulating the fat loss through a variety of techniques that we stack up throughout the day. One of which is low intensity, steady state cardiovascular activity in the absence of insulin. Of course, also we can add to this by high intensity resistance training later on in the day. We can also add to this by the proper high net nutrient ratio of micro and phytonutrients adequately programmed throughout the day from a preferential macronutrient split and the adequate caloric ceiling. All this matters by mediating our levels of stress to ensure proper biochemical health matters dramatically also. So to answer your question, fat burning is the totality of the decisions that we make. It is not restricted to just one area. Garlic and cheese bread. Ooh, so good. So good. What's your pizza choice? That's actually a good question, Adam. Totally right. Adam, bro, I love the ab contest, by the way. I seen that pop up right now too. It's like people talk smack. I'm like, you got to be careful in the PC world with everyone gets so damn hurt. It's like, so I usually say, well, who wants to go jump in the pool right now? They're like wearing their muumuus and whatnot. Shit. I'm down. But what's your pizza choice? It really depends on where I am, because specifically each restaurant has their own specialty pizza. It's like Naples and Spring Lake Heights have the most amazing white pizza you will ever eat. If we go to Federico's, then it will be a meatball pie. If we go to Vic's, then it will be, everyone there is great, but I would say the everything is incredible, minus anchovies. So those are just a few. So I'm a bit of a connoisseur, Adam. I think you and I are going to get along very well. Where are we going? What are we feeling? And this will actually dictate the choice. Never a bad pie at Vic's for sure. I mean, is there ever a bad pizza? And if it's just a plain, then a plain is going to be Don's, of course, because Don's has great, just strict plain. But again, few and far between on that. Well, Ben Boyer, boom, 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 boom. Good to see everyone. Yep. Dobson, hydration and frequent urination is one of the biggest factors in kidney stones. Also, in my opinion, may need to urinate more and hydrate. Agreed. And I think that's more of a deep conversation with a medical doctor who can run the proper test to create an adequate diagnosis. It's very challenging to just answer any question here. So this is, of course, just for information and entertainment purposes only, which is important. Will Brigg is an OG. Absolutely, he was. He is, of course, not was. He certainly is an OG. David, does taking creatine with carbohydrate actually speed up absorption? The true answer is no. Carbohydrate is most beneficial due to accumulation more so than anything else. And I know Bill Phillips and EA Sports, they really push that glycemic carbohydrate connection to creatine, drinking grape juice with their EAS creatine monohydrate, but Lindsay, take care. Lindsay Dubson says, right on, appreciate you. What do you think about Eat, Stop, Eat? I've never heard of it, so I can't comment. Tom Lowe, when you talked about training the last American gangster, you stated every 13 days he got an earned meal. Is this about how often you would have a relaxed meal with family or friends? Yeah. What we say is typically it's twice per month, never any closer than 10 days, which takes us off the 7-day rotation, which is important. Most people think just because it's Sunday, they can have a earned meal, an off menu meal, a bad meal, a cheat meal. That makes no sense. Simply because the day of a week has a certain name does not mean you've done what is necessary to earn anything on that day. So we say no less than 10 days apart and no more than twice a month. I'm fine if you simply have it once a month, but I will say when you're following our meal plans, 100% compliant, you will have built-in refeed days. So these earned meals, as we were talking about with Mr. Chael P. Sonnen, these earned meals are not inherent refeeds. These are more for the emotional reward system, which is fine. But when you follow our 3 weeks to shredded program or our living lean program, which you can click the link below to learn more about those, there is built-in refeed days. So you don't have to, quote, go off menu. Everything will be taken care of on that. So great question, Thomas. Timo, you just spoke my life. LOL, right on. I'm glad I could help. Let's see. Dave says, I'm in bed by 8:30 and work long days. I'm up by 4:30 and home around 6. If I woke up earlier to do lists, I would be cutting sleep down to 7.5 hours. Should I prioritize the sleep or lists? 8:30, work long days. I'm up by 4:30, home around 6. That's a long day, bro. If I woke up earlier to do lists, I would be cutting sleep. I would prioritize the sleep. And then I would look to get additional lists over the weekend, or I would try and tag some lists in at certain points throughout your day. I would probably add like a 10-minute to 20-minute body weight exercise circuit in the middle of your day. If, David, you're not training with resistance, that I would say, forget the list, stay in bed a little longer, get a great sleep, be fully recovered. Eat your meals have to be perfect, David, by the way. Your nutrition must be perfect. And then somewhere middle of the day, what I would probably do if I had my lunch break, let's say, and I don't know if you have a traditional lunch break, I would take my 1-hour lunch break and I would do 20 minutes of vigorous activity, resistance training, body weight. Do a body weight cycle. Do body weight squats or walking lunges, do push-ups or dips, do V-ups or Romanian twists, or planks, I should say. If you can do some sort of chin-up or row, if possible, which would be great. And we did the push and then hinge, some sort of basic, deadlift or back extension type of exercise. How easy is that? And I would just run 20 minutes nonstop of a 1-minute rotation of each exercise. I'd run it all the way through, super easy. And then I would take the 40 minutes to recover, eat, hydrate, and get right back to work. So you're not sweaty anymore. That will go so far in your life if you can do that. And I don't know what you do, of course, but I keep kettlebells in my truck now, by the way. I always have kettlebells with me, which might sound a little crazy until I found myself at certain times, once or twice a month, doing something that I couldn't get my workout in, which completely blowing my schedule. So I got a pair of 12 kg kettlebells just sitting in the my toolbox in the back of my truck. I can literally bang out a workout in the Target parking lot and not blow my goals, which I say that and people are like, that's like, oh, I can't work out because I can't go to the gym. Like, fuck, man. I mean, I own a gym, which is nice, and I have memberships to gyms, but I don't have to go to a gym to get a workout. I can get a workout in a prison cell, knock on wood, in like a hotel room. I've gotten workouts on an airplane before in the little stewardess area. I've banged out sets of body weight squats and breathing exercises, which might sound fucking weird to some people, but some of you gangsters out there, it sounds totally awesome. Adam, sleep and a long good walk with my dogs as my list. I love it. I'm finding as I get older, a good walk is all I need. Exactly, brother. Me too, man. Walking solves almost every problem in our life, right? From the emotional capacity of walking outdoors, that is 100%. If I had to choose one form of exercise for the rest of my life, and I have answered this question before, it would be walking outdoors. That would be my answer for sure. No, but sleep is God. In bed before 10, up at 6. Maybe even a quick siesta. Bro, Adam, I love it, man. Keep it up. Guys and gals, that appears to be every single question falling in just under the 2-hour window. I appreciate you. Remember, March 19th, 20th, and 21st, the next Dolce Diet Certification and Fitness Conference. This is the flow over because we sold out of the last one. We had a waiting list, and now those great individuals will be a part of the next one. And there's a few spots left. If you want to take part in this, become a Dolce Diet Certified Coach, learn everything you need to know about nutrition and dietetics, and also go down the rabbit hole of building your business, building your brand, and the proper financial stewardship principles that we utilize that has made us very successful, very stress-free. And I think that's the most important thing, which allows our team to truly focus on helping individuals, which is very rare out there. Most fitness is all about marketing and monetizing and selling, and we can simply help people live better lives. So the DDC, click the link below. Also, the online diet and exercise platform at thedolcediet.com. We have a 25% discount right now with promo code TRANSFORM. Set the GPS for the rest of your life. Get in amazing shape, and let's do it together. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you to Professor Lindsay Howard, who is absolutely incredible. And we will be back on tomorrow. Check the Instagram later today for more live Q&As. And until next time, boom.